Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today. Yes, my name is Marcel Ferreira. I'm a senior product manager in Power Apps Studio team, and I look after pro developers and code-first experiences when creating Power Apps. And I have here with me today my friend Appy. Want to introduce yourself?
There we go. Hi, Appy. I work a lot with the Power Platform, and we've been doing a lot with Fusion development lately. So I was discussing with Marcel what we could do for this awesome session.
Yes, fantastic. So yes, you are in the session, get your code together. So let's talk about code in a low-code platform, right? And I always like to start saying that Power Platform is for everyone, including professional developers. It's an incredible tool, and you can create amazing applications with less code to maintain, which is always a good thing. Today, we will show two things. We will show the native Git integration, which is the new feature in public preview now, where you can see and control your code for your low-code components. And you also will see what is the source code for a Canvas app. We always know there's a source code underneath. You don't really need to understand the source code to work with Power Apps, but if you do, you can get interested in things. So let's dive deep a little bit, and let's get started, shall we? Okay. Let's start defining source code. What is source code? Here is a definition that I like. A source code is an abstraction that describes my application in a non-ambiguous way. And usually we write code for humans to understand. That's why we write codes. We have different levels of abstractions, and people like different abstractions as well. Some people prefer objects, some people prefer functions, and that's all fine, as long as you can understand the application. But in low-code context, what is source code? We want to empower everyone to create applications, so you don't really need to see code to create applications. But in the context of low-code, keep in mind, a solution is your source code. Every time you create a component, every time you create an object, you are creating something that you can deploy from environment A to B. If you put that in a solution, that will make really simple for you, and it will make easy to make an enterprise-ready application, right? So solution is your source code. And source code is important exactly because of that. And there are different levels of maturity. Some people, they start to work like in only one environment, they will create everything. Very quickly, they will realize, I need another environment where I'm not touching all the time. And then they start to manually move the code. That's a manual ALM. Very soon, they will find that even though it works, it's very easy to do mistakes. That's when they decide to use tools and create processes, put guardrails in place, and use all the knowledge of developers, right? Developers, professional developers like us, we don't only code, we solve problems. That we do, and we have good practices, such as CI/CD. All these things we can benefit as well. And that's in the level of ALM 2.0. That's when pro developers create and set up this environment for citizen developers to be able to create enterprise-ready applications. Even though it works, it can be expensive to set up all of that, lots of time. So our goal in Power Platform and all the features that you see more and more is to enable a native ALM. So you can create enterprise-ready applications from day one with not even thinking about it. We are teaching the good practices for low-code developers so they can do healthy software, good software, right? So let's go and see that in practice. We need a scenario, we need an app to work. As I mentioned, we will work more with the Canvas app, but let's start with the plan. If you watched Leon's session before, he talked about the Plan Designer. That's a new feature which is public preview, which is an amazing Copilot first experiences for you to create applications, really comprehensive application. The scenario that we will see today it is we will create a custom application for managing real estate listings, client interactions, and property details. I also attached an ERG diagram and the Plan Designer using intelligent agents created for me my user roles, all my scenarios, all my data, and everything else. Okay? We are not diving deep in the Plan Designer today. What I want to point out it is Plan Designer will create for you a solution if you don't have, or you can put all your assets within a solution. So you have an ALM-ready application from day one. This is super, super important. now that we have a solution, we are ready to start to use the Git native integration. Okay? Git native integration allow me to connect my environment or my solution to an Azure DevOps project. This is the first step, and this is what you are seeing in the video here. In the public preview, you can set up your environment to one repo, and that's what I'm doing here. Okay? You will connect in seconds, no tool needed, and we are taking this opportunity to do some improvements in the solution. Solution today, natively, it uses XML files. In the Git integration, we are updating that to use YAML. And the reasons for that is more source code friendly, less verbose. We don't have noisy diffs there as well, and is less overwhelming for makers. They don't need to look the code, but if they want to, YAML is easier for them to read. And also, we are showing the YAML source code, which is a combination of YAML and PowerFX. We use that in Canvas, but we use that in other components as well. We will dive more in a minute on that, but now that we have my environment connected to my Azure DevOps project, I need to do my initial commit. We will bind our solution to one Azure DevOps project, so I will show you a video about how to do that, okay? Here we have our solution. Let me just be sure the video is playing. Yes. So here we have our solution. That's the real estate application. I will open just to show you that even the plan itself, I created this with Plan Designer, right? But the plan itself is also an object in my solution, so I can move across different environments if I want to. Here I have my app, my Canvas app, which will work today, and I have more assets as well. But here I will connect with source code. This is the experience for the first connection. I will select a branch. I could create a new branch. I'm using a PowerDev branch here that I already created. And I will select a folder. And what this will do under the hood, it will look all my components, all my objects, and make them ready to commit. Once it's done, the first scan, this will take a couple of minutes. I am able to commit, and this is the experience for you to commit the code. As you can see, you can do everything here from Maker Portal. You don't even need to see code if you don't want to. That allows makers, citizen developers, to use source control without not even look to source. And we all know as developers what are the benefits of the source code, right? Okay, my solution is now in my repository. We will see the repository in a minute. But I want to deep dive more on the Canvas app. Do we have a source code for Canvas app? If you are working with solution today, the native solution, you will know if you add a Canvas app in a solution, when you export, you will have a binary file. Binaries are not good to source control. There's no abstraction there, right? So how do you source control a Canvas app? Until today, there is no way you can do that in a supported way. You should not use this in production. But we have an experimental tool where you can unpack a Canvas app to an understandable YAML that you can source control. Okay? So what is a Canvas app? A Canvas app is a collection of assets. These assets, they are basically JSON files and a bunch of other files. They have not been designed to be source control. So they work well as a serialization format, but they are not stable across save and load cycles. So they are not good to source control. That's why we did this experiment, which worked very well, and we build upon that. But the message here is, please don't use this in production. If you are using Pack CLI or Power Platform CLI, and if you are using Pack Solution command, don't use the PCA parameter. You can use that to understand the application, but avoid to put that in the pipeline. You don't want to break your pipeline in production. There is a way of doing that in the future. The way for you to source control your Canvas app is to use the native Git integration. With the native Git integration, what we are doing is we are opening the box. We are being fully transparent. We don't have MS app anymore. What you have in the solution is a folder with all the assets that we have for Canvas app. You have controls, you have references and resources. We don't support you editing those, but they are there so you can see everything. We are adding a new folder, SRC. That's our source code. So you will have one pa.yaml file for your Canvas app, and you will have one pa.yaml file for each screen of your Canvas app. and if you have Canvas component, you will also have files for these components. But because of that, we have different formats. So I just want to show this before I jump in the demo so we see in my machine how it works. Keep in mind, if you are using the experimental format, you will get a fx.yaml file. That's how you know you're using PackCLI. Don't use that. Use pa.yaml files with the Git native integration. Okay, there are more details in the documentation. You need to know these formats exist, but let's see in practice. Let's see in my machine how it works. Okay, I will share here my desktop. So I have an application ready for us to dive deep. This is my solution. Here is connected to Git already, and is a simple solution that I created with the Plan Designer. Here I have a list of properties. The property has details, and I have pictures for these properties. Let's use this application to understand the YAML and the evolution that we did across different formats. So I will use one control here, which is the search input. Let's see the code of this control. This is what a YAML looks like. Okay? We always have on the left the name of the control. This name is unique. And we use one property called control. This will identify what type of control it is. Here we can see this is a classic text input. Very important, this is used to instantiate. We don't accept any logic here. This is an arbitrary value. So don't put PowerFX here, it will not work. Once you define the control in the properties, these are the properties that you have in your Power Apps Studio. You have full control over here. This accepts PowerFX and all the logic that you want to add in your app. Let's see more controls here. In the context, all of them together. I will select this control. I will view code. This is a container, right? So container, it is special. So the same. The name on the left identifies the control. This is a unique name, so the name of this control is search container. To identify what is the control type, we have the property control as we talked before, but we have an extra keyword here, which is variant. Variant can change what is the default value of the properties that you have for that control. It might add and change the behavior as well. Not all controls have variants, but some of them do, and is the same as the control. You don't add PowerFX properties here. It's very important for you to understand that. Okay, now that we understand that, let's go and dive deep a little bit more on the application itself. In this application, we have the list of properties and we have pictures, but we don't have a way to add a new picture, right? And because we can see the code now, we are also adding more experiences in Power Apps Studio. So you can copy controls and you can paste controls, but not only that. You can actually create templates for your screens. This is what I did here. So I did this for several apps. I created a new form for me to upload pictures or files. And I have that on my repo, and I have here open with my VS Code. So this is my pa.yaml file that I got from my repo that I'm using with Git integration. There is a disclaimer here. We are in public preview. At this point is read only. We will get to edit, but at this point is read only. Important for you to know that. And there is a link for more documentation here with more information on the format. And notice that we add another level here which describes what it is. So this is screens. It's basically one screen which is called add image. And I have all the logic for my screen here. Now it's time to talk about another improvement that we did. In the control, we added a version of the control. This is what you have here at add. This defines what is the version of the control that you see here in the code. Okay? Controls, they can have different versions. It's important to say that this version is for source control only. You cannot decide what version of the control you will run in Studio or in runtime. This is just for us to know what properties do we have, and then we can deserialize the control correctly. So let's do that. I will use this screen here, and this is a pa.yaml file. I will just select the whole screen, and then I will copy. I'm just doing Ctrl-C, and I will go back to Power Apps Studio. I will show you that I have only one screen. And what I will do is I will go and paste the code. And then I have a new screen. So I'm using that as a template, and I just added a screen here in seconds. This allows me, as I mentioned, to do scaffolding, to create very good standards so you can reuse your screens. So let me just remove this comment here so we can see the app is fully functional. If I click the plus, then I have my new screen here. Fantastic. We are almost done in the app, but something came in. I received a message from a user saying, hey, my app is not working, it changed by itself. We know that doesn't happen, but we have source control so we can investigate what happened, right? The user is saying the filter is not working anymore, and he's giving me a text here to describe what he wants the filter to do. I will just, first I will focus on fixing the problem, then I will find later on when the problem happened. The user claims the filter is not working, so I will test. I will try to type here, and I can see indeed is not working. So let's fix that. Let's fix that. So imagine I'm not too familiar to PowerFX or I'm not too familiar to Canvas. I can use Code View to help me to understand. So I know this control is called search input, but I'm not sure where the filtering is being done. So I can use View Code here to search that. So let's go ahead and search input. Perfect. Here, I just found the definition of the control. I can see, yes, that's a text input, and I have some properties, but there is no logic here. And if I go to the next, I found where it's being used. It's being used by records gallery in the items. That's how they filter this. Perfect. I'm learning PowerFX. Let's go and change that. So that's the records gallery. That's the items property. I want to fix this filter, right? So let's ask help for Copilot. I'm not too familiar to PowerFX, let's say. So I'm deleting the filter, and I will ask Copilot to help me. And I will just paste what the user asked me. So the user wants to filter based on search input by name, address, description, and also wants to sort the results by price. Copilot is suggesting me here PowerFX expression. I will just accept, and I will check if it works. Let's see. I will just type again by the name, and yes, it is indeed working. I want to see if it's sorted by price, and yes, it is. Perfect. That's how you, with the code knowledge and also with Copilot help, you can start to create Canvas applications pretty quickly. Now that we fixed the issue, let's investigate a little bit. Let's see our repository. So here I am in my solution. That's how I get to my repository. I have a link here. I already have open, so let's see how the repository looks like. So this is my solution, Contoso Real Estate. I have all the objects that my solution has. Let me show you quickly the solution XML, which is now a YAML. If you're familiar to solution, this is what the former solution XML looks like as a YAML. Here you have the version of the solution. But let's go back to the Canvas app and investigate what happened with that Canvas app. Here you would have your MS app. We are opening the box. You don't have an MS app anymore. You can see everything which is underneath. And here we have the new folder SRC. This is the folder that you want the source control. This is the source code for your application. Let's have a look on the history of the screen called listings. That's where the issue happened. If I go to my history, I can see when the app has created, when they updated the header, when the image is added, and here I see some magic mystery code. If I open the code, I will get just what happened. It's just one clear div. I can see the user updated the filter, and that's when the issue was introduced. That helps me to control my source code. I can be more confident to move across different environments, review, and everything else, right? So let's go back to the presentation. We are about to see a cool thing. Quick summary about the demo. We saw the code view. You can see everything what is happening under the hood for your app. You can source control, you can track changes, and you can use code snippets to scaffold and reuse. And there is a whole gallery of the community that helps you to create controls, copy, and paste. But again, code clarity is important. And I know Appy likes a lot code, just as me. Appy, wanna help us to understand a little bit better code?
Yes, I definitely want to do that. So the first thing when working with code is that you will see that um, you'll probably start thinking about naming things. And we all know the quote, or at least if you're a developer, you probably know the code that naming things is hard. And naming things is probably one of the harder things in doing code. And the thing with naming things is it will help you speak the same dialect, so to say. So if you're writing code, you want to make sure that everyone uses the same construct when they build stuff. And obviously you can use the out of the box stuff that you get with Power Apps, but maybe you want to change up a little bit. And the important thing about naming is, why do you want to name things? Well, first of all, you want to make sure that this is consistent. They all have the same naming convention, that every control you create is clear, that it makes sense. And why? Well, to help you with maintainability. If other developers or other makers are involved in your project and you all use the same naming, it will help. You'll know what other people are meaning. Second, you paste it in a really, really awesome screen, but maybe that uses a different naming convention. So you want to make sure that what you're building with your team or with your friends is interchangeable. And it helps if you use the same naming convention for that. And it will help in accessibility. It becomes easier to understand what's being shown on the screen. And if you do things with creating new screens, you might want to focus on specific names for your screen so that screen readers can pick it up. So let's say naming things is important. Now we put in a sample. If you used variable 1, variable 2, if you use combo box 1 and 2, it becomes really hard to understand what actually is happening. So if you would have a filter where you would say, I'm going to filter combo box 1 on a specific variable, it's really hard to make sense of what's happening. And you saw Copilot already doing some better suggestion. Maybe use a variable that describes what's actually in the variable, or maybe describe what the search box is for, or the combo box is being used for. So this is an important thing. If you're building your solution, if you're building out your app, you'll need to think about naming conventions. And obviously, Copilot will help you with that, but there are things you can do yourself as well. And that's where the Git integration really, really shines. So let's have a look at my demo machine, and let's have a look. You already showed the solution structure. So I can go to my own repo. I created a branch called pipeline where I built a pipeline, and you see that I have the same structure. So I have that Contoso real estate solution. Everything is in there. I didn't do anything special there, no smoke and mirrors. But what I did is I added two things. First of all, I added an Azure pipeline. And in that pipeline, I run a script. So there's not too much special in the pipeline. The only thing that will happen is this pipeline will try to run this specific script and will tell me, okay, let's have a look at the Contoso real estate solution. And in that script, there is a bunch of logic, and we'll have a look at that in a second. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to say, I'm going to run my Power Platform pipeline. So I'm going to say run pipeline. I can say I want to run it against my feature branch. And as soon as I click on run, you will see that it will queue the job. It will pick up that specific pipeline. It will pick up the script, and it will start doing the stuff that I identified in the script. And what we did in the script is, if I go there, we created a scoring script. And let me make it a little bit bigger. What we do is we do a bunch of things in the script. The first thing is we'll install PowerShell YAML. We'll need to process YAML, as you've shown us. There's a lot of YAML, and YAML is something that as a human I can read, but a system probably needs a little bit help. So we gave it a PowerShell YAML model, which allows us to create objects based off the YAML. Then what we do is, if we go through it, we're gonna filter out all the Canvas apps that we have in this specific solution. So we look for any file called canvasapp.yaml, which contains all the YAML that we need. And then what we can do is we can go through all those elements and all the stuff that is in there. So here you see I have a read app element function that will look at what we pass in, and it will go through and see whether there are child elements, and for each child element it will go through it. And what we'll do is we'll create a temporary list of things that we can actually go through. So what we then can do is we can say, well, I want to look through all the Canvas apps that I have. I want to list all the Canvas apps that I found, and then I want to go through all the YAML files that are related to a specific app. And what you can then do is you can say, well, the first thing I want to check is whether there is a onStart function created. If we do anything in the onStart, I want to throw a warning that we should use named formulas. You showed me that named formulas are the new best practice, so I figured let's add that. The second thing I can do is I can then go back to this recursive function where we go through and we have a look all the elements, and then for each element, we'll have a look whether it adheres to the naming convention that we're defining. So what we do is we have a JSON file, and that JSON file contains all the different objects. So let me show you. I've got my naming conventions here, and we defined what that naming convention is. So we say if the control is a 3D object or the control is an error audio button, we said this is the naming that it should start with. And I can go through my logic. You'll see here that at the end, what we'll do is we'll list out anything that's not adhering to our naming convention and throw a warning for it. And we can say we write it out in our script, or we can throw an actual, as you can see, we do that if it's a pipeline, we can throw a warning. So what happens if you now run this pipeline, you see that the pipeline has successfully executed. Everything looks good, no errors, but we did get 80 warnings explaining to us that the control upload image, which is of type image, should start with EMG according to our naming convention. So now what we can do is we can enforce a naming convention and let everyone know that whenever they do something, you need to adhere to the naming convention that we decided on. So we all speak the same dialect. And I think that's where you have some cool stuff to show up next.
That's really cool, Api. Thank you very much. And yes, I want to highlight that, exactly that. Code is for other humans to understand, so get your code together. Write a good code, which is good to understand, get some agreement on conventions, and yes, I love code. So with code, we have options, and we have lots of options with Power Platform, right? What should I use? Native Git, do you CLI or Power Platform pipelines, Azure DevOps? What to use when? So yes, there is no one size fits all. You have options. This table might help you to decide what to use. Important to say, the native Git integration is now in public preview. At this point, we support low-code components. If you are creating code-first components using TypeScript or C#, PackCLI is the way to go. But moving forward, you will see more and more components supported in the native integration. And regarding CI/CD is the same. You have options to create your pipelines. Power Platform pipelines is a fantastic way for you to get started. It's a fantastic way to give the power of CI/CD for citizen developers. You can start really quickly and soon. But if you want to extend with code, if you want to really use more professional tools, you have options. So use this table to help you. And also we have an awesome session after that talking about ALM, so stay tuned. Yes, all the example that we show here is part of the Contoso real estate sample. This is a fantastic repository that I have to give credit to Scott Durrell. We extend an example from our Azure friends, and we use Power Platform to extend that full stack application where we can innovate. And you have full access to the code. Here are the links. You have more content in the session as well. So thank you very much for being here with us. Get your code together and share your code snippet.